Yo, B, let's go.
You may have seen the clip and maybe heard word of mouth, yet another podcast. Man, what could it be about? Is it truth or opinion? A couple of contradictions. We're here to challenge tradition and twist your vision. So we set on a mission to bring you rebel wisdom.
Welcome back to another episode of Rebel Wisdom. I'm Julian here with my boy B. Today we're going to be talking about a little bit of passions, a little bit of money, how those two things correlate. We always hear follow your passion, and money will find you, or some version of that quote, which which we feel isn't always true. And we can kind of talk about why. Like, right? It sounds good in theory, but here on this platform, we're here to rebel against the typical tradition, and I think this is a good one because I think this is one thing that's been taken at face value, and you can tell me your thoughts on this, but have we being the general society, have we really dissected this quote? Follow your passion, and the money will follow. I think much like anything, we see the top people in their respective fields of whatever said passion is, and it's like, oh, they're getting all this money or they're getting all those followers. But like, sure, for the I don't know, I love basketball and I'm not making nor am I going to make any money off basketball, so I'll use that as an example, right? Like, if basketball's a passion of mine, even years ago when I was younger and more limber and less had better joints, like if I would have followed that, poured into that, I probably could have made it farther, played collegiately or whatever. But was basketball, no matter how passionate I am about it, gonna pay my bills? Uh, Probably not. No matter how, I mean, I think was a great player and everything, you know what I mean? But I just think I think there's almost a caveat to the quote, follow your passion and money will follow. And that caveat is kind of what I want to explore. What are your entering thoughts on this one?
Yeah, like imagine if you just started chasing your basketball career now.
Right.
Right? I think I'll be against it. I'll be like, dude, like you got such a good thing going. Like, right. So I think there's a sense of realism that needs to be built into the quote, which there is not. And then growing up, I always heard a saying around that phrase, something like that. Like my mom, when like she'll tell me as a kid, hey, you can be whatever you want for your occupation when you grow up, which true. But then in the phrase kind of goes along with that because being able to work your dream job as a career, that means like the money side is also taken care of, or at least that's the assumption that these quotes already have built in. But dude, like we can say that, but life hits, and I think it's almost irresponsible of advice to give someone because there's so many wrong that can go through with it. Like one example is like, what if you don't know what you're passionate about? You don't know what crazy feeling of massive passion feels like. So you mistaken what you call passion as something else. And you go chase that, makes no money, wasted years, didn't gain too much from it, and then now what? Right? So there's a lot of stuff that I do want to talk about pertaining to that. And the more that it's repeated over and over with no context to the younger generation, high schoolers, early adults, the more dangerous it could influence that individual. Yeah.
Okay. That's good, and I'm already, we're just getting started, and my brain's racing. So what this makes me think of is if I were to try to, I don't know, the first thing that comes to mind, right? You don't have kids, I don't have kids, but if I had a kid and my kid's growing up, I'm trying to project this question on myself. Would I want to instill a sense of like to my kid, like, hey, you can do anything and be anything you want if you work hard enough in it, in life? Absolutely. But I think so. Since my answer to that is yes, I would try to instill that mindset and those teachings into my kid. It's like, what's the difference between that and, follow your passion, the money will follow? I think so. I think it's more of a concept thing than maybe a literal thing. And so let me know if this like doesn't make sense. Whereas I want to instill in them that yes, if you work hard enough in something, like just don't think that there's something that you can't do. If you work hard enough and put the time in and seek out the resources and network, right? You pretty much can do most things. But again, it's just doing something. Does that make it uh sus- does that make it enough to sustain life or a family, right? Like doing something and profiting greatly off something, it's two different things. But I would absolutely, to kind of backtrack, I would absolutely want to, tell my kid, hey, if you work hard enough at this, like you can do this, or not even do this, you can get good at this. And to take it one step further, you can probably even make money for this. But again, it's like you want to be careful because to just blindly tell somebody like you can do anything, I mean, eh, not like necessarily. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's I don't know. I think this is gonna be a good discussion because I'm even trying to figure out. So just like with these quotes, and as I'm thinking of like what I wanna instill in a child, it's gonna take some serious thought, and I think conversations like this will be good to kind of get to the core of like, like, I mean, it's good to have passions, but like you said, developing your passion, what does being passionate look like? Is it really feasible, sustainable, to have your passion as your primary source of income? Or even like when in life you start your passion, I think oftentimes if you start things younger off, like you have more time to kind of be flexible or kind of meet certain failures and bounce back. Granted, there's no like expiration date on passion, but I think there is some common sense involved, I guess is, what I'm trying to say.
More looking into more like practically speaking into these you know, follow your passion type of fields.
Mhm.
What would you say some of the examples are for
Mm,
it's I feel like you can have a passion in anything, but I feel like there's few jobs or like few things that people do that are kind of like passion driven. And I'm thinking more on the creative side,
okay.
like people if you want to be a singer, if you want to be a rapper, like music industry, like I feel like that's a lot of passion driven. And I'm sure there's more.
Yeah. I think it's more expensive than that. I mean, what first comes to mind are the creative heavy jobs. Yes. Music, production, film, artistry,
Hmm.
whatever. But then there's also like, I think like lawyer, doctor, like those are very passion driven jobs too.
Hmm.
Now, so it's almost easier for me to say like what aren't the passion driven jobs. And again, could be wrong, but like I feel like more of the trades are like electrician and plumbers. Those are things I rarely hear people oozing enthusiasm about. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
leaking passion about like, bro, I'm about to get in these pipes. I'm about to get it right. Like it's just,
Yeah.
but so yeah, it's easier for me to conceptualize just like what aren't the passion jobs, which trade skilled jobs, like where you have to master a skill. And those are very good, respectable, and can be good paying jobs. But as far as the passion ones, I think those are both some are very low skill. Well, I shouldn't say low skill, but just things you don't have to go to school for and are true creative aspects you develop over time. And then some are like very school intensive, have to go to school for
Mhm.
a while, where I think both can be passionate.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I guess the topic would be more surrounded around those creative jobs that you were talking about that's on the less paying side. I would imagine those are
Hmm.
more frequent
Yeah.
because, doctor in itself is doctors and lawyers. Like, there's not too many people, doctors and lawyers around compared to upcoming
Right.
artists, upcoming rappers,
Yeah.
upcoming Twitch streamer,
Yeah.
whatever it
Gamer,
is.
whatever.
Yeah, game,
Yeah.
right, exactly. Stuff like that. Okay. I want to get your thought on something because I have I feel like I have a lot of views that's different from the average person, and sometimes they can be good, sometimes they can be bad. But I'm more in the belief that instead of finding a job that I'm passionate about, it's like there's certain. I feel like there's a many jobs that I could get behind and be passionate about in the future, and there could be 100
Mm.
different uh, fields of work that I could do. And
Yeah.
the one that I'm in currently, just randomly through luck that landed, like I really enjoy it. And there's a
Yeah.
book that I read. I can't remember the title, but it talks about components of a job that makes you really love a job. It's like, what are those components? And one of the things is like being good at your job. And being good at your job, there can be a barrier or less of a barrier if you're just like a math science person. Some jobs will be easier than others, and by being good at those jobs, you grow appreciation for your field of work, your company, your industry, your sector, things like that. So I would almost like look at it backwards from find your passion and go find jobs that's aligned to your passion. Instead of doing that, I think it makes much more sense to find something that you think that you might like, hopefully higher paying as possible, gives you autonomy, freedom, makes you get better as a person. Like find those jobs and then see if you
Yeah.
like it when you really like work hard at it.
I can definitely get behind that. And I wanna ask you a question that just popped in my head from hearing you speak. Tell me something that you are good at, but you don't like doing.
Something that I'm good at, but I don't like doing.
Yes, yes.
Dude, that's a hard question. Something that I'm
Not
good
something we
at,
think about
but
often, but there's a point to it.
I don't know. I'm having
The answer could
trouble
be
thinking.
could be nothing. Okay. I'm also thinking about this as I asked you. I'm having trouble thinking of anything. I find it hard to believe there's not one thing, but I genuinely am struggling to come up with an answer. And my point is to piggyback off your point. If you're right, we have things we're passionate about, but then we have things that we're just, everybody, every single being on this earth is good at something, or if not multiple things, probably multiple
Mhm.
things. But if you find a job that kind of aligns with your skills, talents, things that you're decent with or to even good at, and then I'm again not necessarily passionate about or you love to do, but that you're good at, just kind of a good fit for you, and then you can probably find some level of success in that, and then you can develop some liking or passion, or just grow to like that job. Because as we both just demonstrated, and this is not scripted, like if you like, I feel like this is not backed by any data, but I feel like just from being on this earth for, I'll say over 30 years, to not give my exact age away, but I, I've, I've noticed that most times when you like something, or excuse me, most times when you're good at something, you don't like dislike it. You know what I mean? Like if you
Mhm.
just find a job that aligns with what you're capable of or you're good at, there's probably some element of you liking it, if not loving it or passionate about it or able to grow a passion in it. So yeah, I'm just saying that to say like it is an interesting question because and I'm going to continue to think about it, but I feel like it's rare that somebody's like actually good at something and they don't like it.
Mhm.
So that's just yeah, something to think about when, if now
Yeah.
if you find something that you both like and you're passionate about, and that's even better, but not everybody's
Yeah.
that fortunate, I don't think.
I think I think that growing that passion afterwards is common thing we just talked about, and I agree with that over finding passion right away and trying to monetize that. And I think Grant Cardone. I've heard him say this multiple times. He's a real estate mogul, like crazy portfolio size. But he says he doesn't want. I'm sure this is a dramatic statement, and it's not to be taken exactly for what it's worth. But so I'm gonna kind of give my meaning towards the what he says. But he says he doesn't want his kids to be happy. He wants he wants his kids to be have high utility in society, I guess. And I kind of and that's kind of what we're talking about here is like instead of instead of going from passion to utility, because you can be very passionate about something, like let's say you love art, or you just love drawing art and creating art, and then you become a famous artist. That
Mhm.
scenario is much rare than looking at yourself. Okay, I'm good at these subjects from high school. These are the kind of things that I'm usually good with, so I don't dislike them, like you were saying. And you go
Yeah.
into those fields, so you prioritize utility over passion. And in doing so, most likely, if you work hard at it and if you're good at it, you will probably end up liking it. Given a good company culture, that's kind of
Right.
it's kind of lucky to get all of that. But I think I think that is much more likely than saying, I'm a gamer. I'm just so passionate about gaming, and I'm gonna just try to make a living off gaming starting tomorrow. I think that's not practical at all.
Yeah, and this again to me, this is such a double-edged sword because I think there's like some element of time to this, right? Like if I would encourage younger people to be a little more risky with exploration of passions, curiosities, etc. Right? I just think professionally you're maybe like judged a little less, you have more time to bounce back, all those things. And yeah, there are a lot of we're probably making this seem very like matter of fact. There's a lot of variables that go into a good job, like you said, company culture, all that. But for the most part, I think from a societal standpoint, you would find the average person will find more success under this model. Now, is success defined differently? Sure. And does this all depend on what you value? Sure. Like if you're okay with if you don't value money, like I value money. If you don't value money, you might be able to dabble a little bit more in your passion or take a little bit more risk, right? Because a lot of times when people are grinding, and it's very commendable, but when people are grinding to, they might have been doing something for 3, 4, 5 years and they're not maybe making as much money as they want, like you're sacrificing that money that you might be able to be making elsewhere. But again, if you're okay with that, like, sure, right? This isn't, I think we try to do a good job of not giving like one size fits all advice. And again, this is more just a conversation. So definitely to each his own. But again, from just a general standpoint of like society, I think a better like equation for success would be to maybe not like blindly follow your passion and, like money will follow at some point. I
Yeah,
just think
that's
that's,
just that's almost
yeah,
delusional. It's like that
yeah.
episode we talked about, hard work solves everything. It really doesn't. You also have to be tactical and make smart
Hmm.
decisions with in combination with hard work. And I don't like instead of the narrative, follow your passion, money will follow. Don't worry about money if you love something so much. Even though that may be true, I feel like the smarter action that I'm talking about here is go find if you're so passionate about something and you want the highest success rate, I feel like the best way to do it would be to go get a decent job that you can find. Like we're talking about tradesmen, like being a tradesman, right?
Hmm.
Like electrician, plumbing. Like you said it, and I agree with you. No one's screaming up and down. They're like, "Yo, I want to be an electrician at like age 7." No one's saying that, but electricians pay very well with. And then they don't have to go to university. They have to go to their trade school, and then you start making good money. And then while you have the lifestyle covered with your primary job that maybe you enjoy, maybe not maybe you don't enjoy it, but with the remainder of the time that you have outside of your work, go start your side hustle that you're really passionate about. And I feel like you'll learn about your passion very quickly. Maybe you
Mm.
really, really, really end up liking it. And it's gotten to the point where, like, dude, my main job as an electrician is just like holding me back. And if that's the case and you're so passionate about your side hustle, I feel like you would sacrifice uh, a lot of aspects in your life to go pursue your side passion or side passion, your passions, your side hustle, uh, while you're working your main job. And financially speaking, if and when your side hustle takes off to the point where it's like, I can comfortably survive off the money that I'm making consistently from my side hustle, then maybe you do make that uh, leap to fully switch career fields.
Mhm.
And I think that makes more sense. And then we also talked about in the couple episodes now, the hierarchy of needs, as a
Yeah.
Maslow's hierarchy of
Yep.
needs. And I'm on the belief, I'm in the camp that you got to take care of your basic needs first before you can really flourish as a person. And
Right.
you can't be at your 100% if you're just like worrying about safety. And one of the examples I gave was like when I first moved to Phoenix, I moved into like a ghetto neighborhood with a lot of guns, a lot of drugs that you see visually, and I was not comfortable. I would literally every day I'd be peeking out my
Yeah.
Ring camera, like make sure nothing's going on outside. I leave for work. My wife's in the house by herself. It's scary for I wasn't able to function, give it my all on anything that I did outside of work. So with that, like I just believe that figure out your finances first, and then they'll give you more. You know, they'll give you like a good fuel to go start your passion. And because you have money, like
Mm.
even a lot of the passions, like even if it's not super expensive, it's helpful to have money, right? Like I don't know if if you want to be a aspiring YouTuber, like you can just record off an iPhone camera, but like it'll be good to have a good mic. It'll be good to have a better camera, stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about it as well right now.
For sure. It's interesting, right? Because you propose this idea of like getting a job to almost supplement your passion. Whereas, kind of what I said is, i- and this is if you know your passion, because you even said some people might not know their passion or have a false sense of their passion, but this is provided you think you know what your passion is, and I propose doing it earlier or pursuing it be maybe so you still have time to recover, and I think those things kind of contradict, but I kind of like what you're saying in that um kind of when you're coming out of college or around college age, that's when you're really getting your foundation for life. And again, everybody's circumstance is different. So you might have some people have more support than others. But if you get a foundational job, something that's steady, gives you some steady stream of income, like my question to everyone would be like, what's stopping you from doing these things on the side? But like you said, and if you really stick to it and it maybe grows a little bit or you kinda get a better scope of how to do it, like you can stop your job, and I know you don't have any tattoos, but, when people go to get tattoos, they always say,
Mm.
like, "Think of a tattoo, wait a year to get it, and, like, if you still want it in a year, then get it because like, you still think about it, you want it." My thing is like that kind of like that with passions, like, do it on the side or whatever for maybe, right? And then if you continue to do it and you like realize like, okay, this is still a burning passion, like I'm still thinking about this, I still try to pursue this, it kind of solidifies that that's something you're hungry about. And maybe it's not just a fad or like
Mhm.
something that popped up in your life. You're in it for 6 months and then it's gone. Because you still have a job, like you're good. But if you're trying to do this thing, this passion as we're calling it, and it fizzles out quickly, it's like, all right, now you gotta pivot and you might have to keep pivoting. So some people's as you navigate life, like people's passions or interests change, like just as you get older. So that's another reason, like you might be passionate about it at 21 and you may not be at 28, 29. Again, I'm not saying
Yeah.
don't do something just because your passion will change. No, not necessarily, but I think that's something to consider that people don't always think about either. But again, if you
How
have a steady job in the
scary.
background, like it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, how scary is that? Like, let's say you blindly follow the advice and like, hey, you hate your W-2, the 40 hours a week, the 9 to 5 grind, blah, blah, blah. Like, just quit and go all in on your passion. And then 3 years in, you're struggling to get by. And eventually you realize that whatever you thought your passion was, that wasn't your passion. Dude, that's a scary spot to be in because you literally in this situation, you would have had to sacrifice a good thing that you were good trajectory that you were going
Yeah.
on to risk it all. And I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of survivorship bias with these stories that people give. You hear
Right.
about, Mark Zuckerberg, how many lawsuits they have to go through. You hear Jeff Bezos, like, you know, almost going bankrupt many times, working out of the garage, like grinding. And yeah, they made it to the top. But just imagine how many people given one successful person that followed their passion,
Mhm.
how many other people how many other people's story didn't play out that way? How many people, just got unlucky? They had enough skill, they had enough resources, but because of something that they couldn't control, they just didn't make it to the top. And now what? Right?
Yeah.
That so yeah, there's a lot of these one-liner advice things that make it just sounds good, right? Like follow your passion and money will follow. Yeah, like that sounds good. Like it's like the ending to the fairy tale movie. It sounds like, but then you apply it to real life and you're like, dude, it's actually more dangerous than not. And I'm not like you said. I want to echo what you said. I'm not. We're not saying like, hey, don't take any risks, but
Yeah.
there's a component of calculated risk that everyone should be taking rather than just going all in. It just doesn't make sense with if there's not a foundation built under it, it just doesn't make sense.
Facts. And it's funny, and I'm hearing you speak, and I'm just running through names in my head of like just top people in their fields, like actors that we all know, or music artists, athletes, politicians, that people are just at the top of their craft, and like in their stories, there's probably some epic point in their life where they like gave it
Mhm.
all, gave up, and just grinded. Right, G- great story in it, but it's a couple things. One, if you're when we use the term like give everything to your passion, I feel like for you to even have like an actual chance, people take the term give everything lightly. This is like sacrificing time with your family, sacrificing a normal job,
Yeah.
sacrificing money. Like I feel like there's some people that are like, oh, I'm not gonna work. Like I'm just gonna like focus on my passion. But like, are you really focusing all on your passion? Again, more often than not, people aren't. And then my second point on that is, and I'm this is coming from a guy who, right, like I like photography, I like to draw, I like art, I like all the things that aren't the super glamorous careers or the traditional 9 to 5s. All hobbies I like, all hobbies I want to be better with, all things that I want to explore more, to be honest. But like I'm still have a job, and I'm going to have a job, even if I end up monetizing some of those things. My intent, is to have a main job. So I like to think I'm creative minded, but still, again, just from I'll say reality standpoint, I feel like statistically, I feel as if it's better to have something a little more stable while I can pursue these things on the side. And I feel like this is a very unforgiving world we live in, right? Like it's great if you're passionate, but the world doesn't owe us anything. You could be the most passionate person ever about, I don't know, creating the new up and coming brand of chapstick, right? Like you could be a chemist, mixing flavors, optimizing the size, um, recycle plastics for the case, whatever. And if nobody buys it and just nobody cares, there's no market for it, like it might fall flat on its face. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's when whatever said person is pursuing their passion, again, this is great, but like always remember, like the world just doesn't owe any of us anything. So it's like I don't know. I'm of the mind too. Like I try to take advantage when I can. So again, if I'm actually like good at something, I might lean into that. Or if there's an opportunity comes my way, like explore that while I may be looking at some of my passions as well, because I just know that the world is relentless and
Yeah.
that we're not owed anything. So I feel like to your point, you keep referencing this like tactical mindset behind it, or like strategy, and I guess that's just part of my strategy is that I don't know, maybe it's just that not putting all your eggs in one basket. Although some people will say like to make it you got to put all your eggs in one basket, but again, if we're speaking statistics, I feel like the all legs in one basket method isn't. I feel like it's not the blueprint.
Yeah, I don't think it's a replicable
Yeah,
blueprint to, yeah, of course, like, it's gonna produce a couple of the people that went all in, they're gonna be the people that come out on top. But I'm also thinking at the same time, like, a lot of, my favorite streaming platform is YouTube. And with all the YouTubers I watch, I don't know every single one of their stories, but majority of them, they had a job and they started YouTube on the side, and they became really good. They became
yeah,
passionate about it later on, and it got into the point where it just financially makes sense to do what they like over their main jobs. And that's exactly like what I'm saying, that's probably a better idea than just going all in. And I mean, people are going to say go all in, and I'm not against going all in if you're just truly, truly, truly passionate about something. But because you follow that passion, like, don't expect the money to come in right away, or like in a big amount.
yeah. Off of that, I was gonna ask you a question, right? Do you think this can be something you've experienced personally or just, seeing over time? Do you think there's ever situations where people have a passion, they try to monetize it or they pivot it in a way to market it, brand it, sell it, and because now they're trying to do market it, brand it, sell it, etc., they like almost lose that passion. It's like it's not as
Mm.
pure anymore. Do you I don't know, what do you think about that thought? Do you think that ever happens or like that's a thing?
Dude, I definitely do. I think
Okay.
if there is a passion, you look at it differently when you get to do it on the side. Let's say that you had a
Mm,
long week at work and your passion is something that you look forward to, right?
mhm.
You get to do it on your own schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Where if that becomes in a way that, the schedule is controlling you to do the tasks that you think that was your passion, it could
Yeah.
easily turn into a bitter taste in your mouth. And I think I have like real world, first person examples
Okay.
where, I had a YouTube channel about a couple years back, and it was, I think I grew it decently quickly. I was
Okay.
making like anywhere from 300 to 500 bucks a month consistently from making these videos. But I don't know what it was. Soon as I started getting, I got few sponsorships. Like, it was very, very little amount, nothing big to brag about. But soon as, like, I started doing stuff for other people on my channel, I just was like, dude, like, the passion died like right away. And I tried to extend
Interesting.
it, and then a couple months later, I just completely quit. I was like, yeah.
Wow. I'm so glad you shared that. And apparently there's a name for that. It's the over justification effect, where these external
Okay.
rewards kill the intrinsic motivation. Like, isn't that
Oh,
crazy though?
interesting.
Like you would think that that's the goal. Like, I'm working at this thing, I'm working at this thing. Hey, somebody recognizes, hey, I'm getting paid. But it's never just that simple. You hear artists, music artists, at least, I do all the time. They make music for years. Okay, they start to catch on SoundCloud, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, and it's like, oh, they're signed to a label. Great. Oh, this label wants me to brand myself like this. This label wants me to cut these lyrics. Now
Yeah.
you got to do all these things that's not really you. And then it's like you reached a peak, a huge milestone in that career path, and it's like now you no longer, it's like extinguishing your passion. I think that's insane. It's just these external pressures, no matter how they come. Again, this isn't to say don't be passionate, not follow your passion. It's just things to consider about pursuing passions and reasons why you might want to supplement your passion with something else because it's we debunk or we go against all these typical quotes, and I'm about to use one, but it's like the grass ain't
Mm.
always greener on the other side. Like,
Yeah.
it sounds good, and I like to think I'm a passionate person. I love doing a whole bunch of stuff on the side, none of which I really try to monetize. Thought about, but like for whatever reason, I've made an excuse or just, I haven't done it. With that being said, I've had a stable job in the background, so I'm okay. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's just I wanted to bring that up because that theory of having these external pressures or external factors and how it might affect you once you do try to monetize what you actually enjoy, I think that's definitely worth bringing up and something to think about.
Yeah. I wanna I wanna hear your take on this, but me for the past, I wanna say maybe 3 to 5 years, and I talked to you countless amount of times about it, is I have my blueprint of success in my head of what my life is going to look
Mhm.
like in terms of success. And then my idea is, I like what I do for my job, and I want to roll the income into like investments, stocks, real estate, for the passive income, for that financial freedom, so that I don't have to worry about money and I can really focus on my passion. That I'm working at a good job, I'm getting a good pay, I'm investing into stocks and real estate. But the issue that I have is I don't have a passion that I just came across that was just different in my life. I've been like, I was really passionate about Pokemon games as a kid, right? Like, that level of excitement that I can carry forward for the rest of my life as a passion, like, I just don't have that. And it's something that I don't think I should be forcing to find. I feel like it's going to be one of those things
Mm.
that's going to come naturally. But I'm just always jealous of people that, they may be much lower paying in terms of salary or in terms of any money that they collect than me. But like, I'm so jealous of their life in terms of the passion that they have. And it's one example that I always most frequently think about is people that work in ministry. Like, I've never been I never grew up religious, and I'm still exploring my religious things recently. But yeah, regardless if you believe in religion or not, I just look at people that work in ministry and it's like, dude, I'm I can't do what they do. They don't get compensated very well. You have to like depend on a lot of donations and whatnot. But from there, like, you can tell that they have a genuine interest in, spreading their belief, whatever they believe in, to other people because they truly believe that's an overall good for the world, for that person, for the community. And I respect that. Something that you can dedicate from even when you're like a teens or young 20s to all the way till you die. That's like just something
Yes.
I'm looking for that I just have not been able to find.
So I have a couple of two points I want to make on this. I hope I don't forget the second one. But right, talking about you, dude, specifically, B, I think this is gonna tie a lot of things in nicely, I think. So if one could argue, I think it's safe to say like you actually enjoy, the stuff and stuff you name, stocks, real estate, and just kind of honestly learning about money, how to manipulate it and how to leverage it for your benefit, right?
Hmm.
Now, some could even say you're passionate about that. But since I've known you, again, kind of like the childhood Pokemon enthusiasm, like you didn't have that. I literally met you and watched you see that there was a way to better your life, financially. So, like, got into stocks, not because you were passionate about it, because you were exploring something that you heard might make you better in accordance with how you wanted to get better, how you wanted to better
Hmm.
yourself, right? Dig into that, learn, and then, like you've been saying, grow into liking it because you
Yeah.
were studying it and because you got into it. So I think this is a perfect example and like a real world, like I witnessed you go through all this, right? Like, not never did dislike money, but you you find I can see it, you know what I mean? Like I hear it just, talking about money. We've read books together and talked about it.
Hmm.
Like you've told me about books, like you like talking to people about it. We talk about how money's kind of a taboo topic and people oftentimes don't even like to discuss it. But I think you've grown again. Passion maybe a stretch. It may be, but I know that you at least enjoy and like learning and applying, money related things in stocks, real estate, etc. So I mean, that kind of could like I think I say that to say it comes in different forms.
Mhm.
Um, and like where you are at now in life, you could be growing towards or in one of your passions right now and not even know it, or growing into a new interest, similarly to how you did with money, which clearly has putting you in good places in life. You know what I mean? Like it started as you just trying to learn, kind of became a hobby. And correct me if I'm saying
Mhm.
anything that's wrong. And like you've benefited from it. Like you've put in hard
Oh
work
yeah, for
in
sure.
learning in that field, and like yeah, it's hours and yeah, it's work, but there's somewhat you like it, so it's like it's not as bad, and that it doesn't show up as a tip, playing the drums or gaming, but it's another way you grew to like something, and then now you're better at it, and now you're like reaping benefits from it. So I think
Yeah.
you don't
Maybe I
have
already
a
did find my
you know what I'm
passion.
saying.
But
That's what I'm
yeah,
saying,
yeah,
bro.
it's
Like
like
it could be in that somewhere in that lane. You brought up the ministry thing and kind of touched on religion, and it's got me thinking about this book I'm reading right now called The Power of Now. I think it's by
Mhm.
Eckhart Tolle. Don't quote me on that. I don't have it with me. Um, and it's centered on spirituality and kind of finding happiness from within. So you talking about was a Greg Cardone quote about how he doesn't want his kids to be happy, but provide utility for society. And then the
Mhm.
ministry thing, how it's like they really just do it because I feel like they get intrinsic value from it. Like, yes, they're helping
Yeah.
people, but like they really there's an intrinsic value. And again, that one, going back to the overjustification effect, where the external rewards from ministry, I feel like doesn't extinguish their intrinsic motivation. Like they find a way to preserve that intrinsic, I don't know, passion, if you will.
Mhm.
Um, but this book is talking about like how to look within and derive some of these feelings kind of from within. And I think a lot of times these passions start from within, and then we try to project them outward or again receive something external for them. But like if we just kind of, I don't even know how to properly say it, like kind of stay pure to it or whatever, like you'll probably maybe like foster that passion or be able to like keep that passion burning longer. Um, that makes sense. I said a
You
lot of words, but
like doing it long enough that it becomes like part of you almost?
not even that. Maybe like doing it for the right reasons, maybe more so.
Uh-huh.
Like ministry, I feel like they have a very pure motive. Like
Yeah, yeah.
if you're preaching, whether one person shows up or 100 people show up, they continue to do it. They're happy to do it because it's not about how
Yeah.
much they're getting paid or who's seeing them. So if you apply that to, and I was trying to parallel that to the book I'm reading, how it's like, he's like, look within. A lot of people like look outward, but like if you look within and grab these emotions that are really, he says states of being, like joy is not, it's a state of being. There's something else. It's not like, it's a state you live in. It's not something you just try to like get one or two times or whatever. So that's what
Mhm.
I was trying to say. It's, it's more so not how long you do it, but like, I guess finding your why for doing it maybe, or yeah.
Yeah, that's a good that okay, okay. Finding okay, that's actually a good point because when I say, I'm looking for my passion, finding my why is a better way to say it actually.
Mhm.
So I'm glad you said that because like I like stocks, I like money, I like real estate, like things like, things that involve money, side hustles, businesses, all sorts of things, right? I like that, but I don't have my why figured out yet. It's like, why am
Mm,
I making all this
okay.
money?
Yes. Yeah.
Because at a certain point, like, I'm just not a materialistic person. I don't wear any jewelry. I don't even wear a watch. I have, yeah, like, it's at a weird point because like, I could keep upgrading my life with the money that I make, but it's like I'm not. I don't want that to become me, right? I want to still maintain my minimalistic, material possessions, and I want to have something where the money is going to for a greater benefit. And maybe it's just donating. I don't know, but like that's not a passion that's built off finding the why. It's like I don't finding a why to my why could be to donate, which could be a thing, but donating itself is not a passion for me. It's not. It's not
Right.
like I can't.
Right.
Passion is something like I
Yep.
don't know. I want to figure out. I want to learn and grow. Donate. You just find something. You click buttons and you send money over. Noble things, but just it's different. It's different than I'm looking for. I don't know if I may have done a terrible job explaining it.
These are the things I think it's cool to like kind of talk about like open. I mean, we're getting pretty vulnerable, but kind of talk about openly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are like why these conversations help me. Because I feel like I'm one of those people that have at least deep interest. I don't even know if I'll say passion, but I have all these things that I'm so interested in or that I find very fun, and it's like I'm trying to hone in on them. Because honestly, if I did take one or two of them seriously, I probably could use them to elevate my life more so. Because right now, the value I get from all these little random things I'm referencing is just it's an emotional value. It's a dopamine hit. It's just an adrenaline rush. It's fun. It feels good. But again, still on the side, if I honed in on again one or two of these things, I could probably use it to either better other people's lives or monetize it. But that's just a conversation I have to have with myself, plan it, sit down, like have a structure for it. And right now I'm just essentially too all over the place. But it just goes back to that. I guess I'm not putting all of my eggs in one basket and trying to maybe failing at, but trying to kind of work on some things on the side that do actually make me feel good, but that I'm still trying to like better myself in as well.
Mm-hmm. I kind
Yeah.
of want to loop in the statistic that we were talking about before we started,
Mhm.
and there is let me make sure I'm reading it correctly. Sorry. Okay, so this was in lieu of just kind of the conversation about the privilege to follow your passion. Because I think following your passion is a privilege that not everyone gets to have. And
Yeah, yes.
so with that being said, I'm gonna make a statement and kind of go with it.
Okay.
The better place you are at financially gives you more of a privilege to pursue your passion. So obviously, anyone, regardless of how much money they have, can pursue their passion. Obviously, but you got to kind of take into fact that the more money you have, the less stuff that you have to worry about outside of your passion. Like you can have a passion, but like with less money, you have to take care. The the consequences of not having money is always looming over you, right? And there's this
Mhm.
stat that said from a Federal Reserve report in 2022 that only 36% of American adults say that they can cover a $400 emergency without borrowing or selling something like right now. Like so
Yeah.
36%, that's a concerning number because
Yeah, that's pretty substantial.
36 is people that could cover a $400 emergency. So
Mm.
which means what 64%
Six.
of people,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
64% of the population, they can't cover it. And 400, like that's not a big amount to not have an emergency savings,
Yeah.
to be
You would
frank with you,
think it's
like, to be
relative, but
realistic.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
So if you follow your passion and let's say things don't work out the way that you thought they would, money short, maybe you go into credit card debt.
Or natural
And
disaster. Oh,
yeah, like and then that in itself may not be a disaster, but that creates a habit of, that means if you go into debt, you have to make more money in the future or cut something out. If the money's already tight, that's kind of difficult to do. So into the spiral downward to the point where like you can't even like follow your passion. It's almost impossible because you got to work 3 different jobs just to pay your minimums on your debt, right? So obviously that's an extreme
Right.
example, but like I feel like a lot of people could fall, somewhere in those in the spiral step where they were told, "Hey, you need to just follow your passion," and then maybe they just naturally were not good. Maybe the passions that they thought were passions weren't really passions, and they just didn't have their personal finance stuff figured out. And yeah, if that's the case, I kind of would I could see in a majority of the cases you're in a worse spot after pursuing your passions after a couple years because it doesn't work out and then just sets you back financially.
Yeah, right. Like how sad would that be? I'm thinking, right? Like these quotes or similar quotes of follow your passion and money will follow. Are these so remember we did the episode about like more money, more problems, and
Mhm.
we dissected and you brought up some good possible, I mean, it's really theories, but origins of like where these quotes originated, those quotes, and how we
Mm.
kind of hypothesized that like those quotes were almost made to almost as like a mind game to stereotype having a lot of money comes with these problems. So like it incentivizes people almost like to not chase larger amounts of money. Do you think this could be something similar where it's like follow your passion and dreams will follow? But again, if first off, if everybody was just hyper attentive to their passion and like really poured into it and like everybody went to the top, it's like if everybody's successful, almost nobody is, right? Because you people
Yeah.
only stand out when they're the few, they're the minority. If everybody's doing it, it like dilutes whatever field. But you know what I mean? So do you think
Yeah.
that this like where do you think this type of thinking, right? Because I like to think like all maybe quotes or some have maybe like some truth to them, or it didn't just fabricate out of thin air. Like it had to stem from something. What do you think this
Yeah.
stems from?
Yeah. This is coming off the top. No research, just
Yeah,
intuition.
yeah, yeah. This is yep,
Right.
yep.
But with that being said, I think this quote comes in. There's a couple of things I'm thinking about. Is I think
Okay.
one of the things that we covered earlier was survivorship bias. So
Yes.
because these notable famous figures have gone
Hmm.
through, they were at the lows of the lows, but with something, hard work, luck, whatever it is, they made it through. They became very famous to tell the story. So
Okay.
people, the data points are just too small. So,
Mhm.
I hear you talking about how successful you were because you gave it your all. Maybe giving it your all was not the primary root cause of you being successful. It could be other factors that we don't talk about, but like when you're giving advice to someone or when you're giving a speech or when you write it in a book, the forms of, mass communicating ideas to people, how much better is it to say, hey, follow your passion. Don't worry about the money. If you're really passionate about something, it'll come, rather than saying, you know, I got really lucky because of XYZ. And maybe if I do it again, I have the skills to do it again because of the knowledge that I built throughout the years. But if you don't have that, it may be more beneficial to figure out your
Mm,
life, get your money right, and then start working on like how much it doesn't
mm.
sound nice and
Yeah.
flashy as the first, the first section, first part.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why it
Okay.
spread out. Maybe it could be completely wrong.
No, yeah, that's why these are just like raw, unfiltered thoughts. I definitely I'll give you points on the one like those like catchy hooks where it's like the lofty sayings that sound good. And again, it's funny because it's like follow your passion and money will follow, right? Sure, money could have followed, but we're not talking about how much. You might be making $100 a month. Like is I mean, yeah, sure you're making something off of it, but like is that enough? And I get you gotta start somewhere. You could grow it, maybe you can scale, whatever. But I'm just trying to I think one of my purposes in this conversation is to reframe people's minds realistically, in that
Hmm.
oftentimes you're going to make nothing. Sometimes you might make little, and rarely you're going to make a lot. If we're strictly talking about the confines of like passion equating to money. And then, some people might make, well, if you work hard enough and long enough, you'll get there.
Hmm.
That also might be true, but like, how long we talking? Like, who's trying to pour into 40 years of something, and like on your 40th year, boom, you pop. But if you started at 20, pour 40 years, you're 60. Like,
Yeah, they might. Yeah.
that's life. Like, you know what I mean? So, again, all these just little side things to think about. And this is kind of a full circle moment, but I want to bring up, I guess there was I want to tie into something you said at the very beginning of how let's invert the narrative, and you're passionate about something, and then you try to master what you're passionate about. And I may be using different words, but the flip narrative would be master something and maybe grow in another quote, like grow where you're rooted or grow where you're potted, like grow in what you're learning or where you work now. So to provide context to that, University of California I guess they did like some research, and it said that it suggests that passion often follows mastery, not the other way around.
Yeah, that's what.
So,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, just think about that. Like, there is some research that backs this, and if you pour time into developing, certain skills or theories, I don't know, problem solving techniques, like whatever, and then out of that, you may be able to grow some level of passion. Again, just trying to give not only Rebel the quote, but also give other ways to approach it or think about it. I
yeah.
think it's helpful too.
No, I like that. No, I want to
Okay.
read Power of Now. What you're talking about?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't want to get into it. I'm enjoying. I'm like highlighting a lot. I'm a big like highlight person, and I'm finding
Mhm.
myself highlighting more than normal. But not necessarily. I mean, there's just some lofty concepts. There's just things. Makes you think about things. You think about things different ways, whether you agree or disagree. Just like think about it a different way. So I
Mhm.
always appreciate that. And that's kind of honestly, that's like a premise of our platform, right? Think about things in ways that you haven't thought about them. And yeah, to me, it's like, what better way to expand your mind?
Yeah, for sure.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. I mean, again, just in summation, like, again, all for being passionate, and if you're truly about something, like, go be about it. But I think something that's often forgot that B first mentioned is try your I would, recommend to try to be as strategic and tactical as you can with it, just to maximize for success. Whatever success looks like for you or in your personal life. Yeah, because we just want to see everybody be great out here. Right. At the end of the day, I think we just all want to thrive and we all become better. So with that, I think that's all we got. Be you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, this is Out Here on Rebel Wisdom. As always, we'll catch you next week.